Once again, welcome everyone for joining us for another paperless MV2 lunch and learn session. Today, our session is going to be focused on kind of the right machine, right material, and right insight. Now, we kind of chose this topic because it's good to have the information, but it's really even better to have the right information. And with the right information, you can obviously make better business decisions, as I like to say. So we're going to kind of focus today on just real shortly, two main things, two main key resources of any manufacturing company, right? Which is your material and your machines. There's obviously other resources like manpower or energy, things like that. But we're just focusing on two key things. The material is one, and then we're going to focus on machines. And you think about these things, right? If you don't have the right material, let's just say, for instance, your material is short. Well, what does that cause, right? There's a lot of negative and downstream bad effects, meaning that maybe you're under producing from a manufacturing standpoint. Maybe you don't have enough material, so it's affecting your on-time delivery. I'm waiting on parts to finish things, or maybe even worse is that I'm making demands to my customers to say that, yes, we can have this based on past performance and lead times and completion times and everything else, but now my material is short for some reason. I can't get it, and now my on-time deliveries are affected, so I can't make my commitments that I've set for my customers. And then also thinking about higher cost of goods, right? You have goods that are sitting out there for longer periods of time waiting to be produced, or your work in process kind of items go up in inventory, right? So therefore, because they can't be completed, obviously that's increasing your cost of goods overall. And then you have to look at a machine standpoint. Let's say you're actually pegged, right? I'm pegged on a machine, or I'm pegged on material. I mean, I've got enough material to do anything that I want to do. So I'm actually keeping my machines 100% utilized. I'm keeping my manpower 100% utilized. And I'm producing as many parts as I can. My capacity is 100%, right? Well, what does that do? Maybe that's overproduction. I'm actually producing more goods than what I really need to do, what I really need, right? And I'm just, there's a old example that I know a lot of manufacturers have used, is saying, this is before everyone really started going lean. And let's just say I had a saw operator, someone that was cutting bar stock for me, from a simple manufacturing example. And I want to keep that person 100% utilized. Maybe I'm the supervisor for that work area, and I'm like, all right, I'm doing a great job. My utilization for this machine is 100%. I'm actually performing to my expectations. I just keep cutting bar stock. And what you can kind of visualize here is just this thing just piling up, right? I got a pile of goods at the saw because I keep cutting bar stock. Well, my downstream work centers, or maybe they can't keep up with it. Maybe that's because the machine's not utilized 100%. Maybe I don't have the manpower. Maybe I don't have the components that I need at those subsequent operations. Well, you think about that one work center again, that saw, well, they keep producing pieces. Well, I'm just overproducing now work in process inventory, which is obviously a bad thing, right? But let's say that I've got every work center that can keep up with that saw work center, and I'm actually producing parts. Well, that's great. I'm now maybe just increasing my overall inventory that I have. And now my warehouse and stock room and my distributors, et cetera, are just getting pegged, and is actually producing more inventory than is actually what's being sold. And I'm sure we're all familiar with the supply and demand, right? Those little cross lines on anybody's kind of economics 101 kind of chart. Your supply and demand, and you have to have a balance between those in order to actually say, all right, you know what, I can, produce as many parts as the demand that I have, but I'm not going to overproduce parts, because obviously that's going to then drive my cost down for what I can sell them at, as well as it's going to drive my cost up as far as what I have to have. You're introducing waste into your process as well, right? Back to my example of that saw operator that's just producing parts, right? Well, you're actually, creating waste by having him spend time on cutting parts that are really not needed. That's one of the forms of waste. I mentioned lean a little while ago. Think about, now everybody's kind of on the lean journey or has been on a lean journey, and many of you are in different stages of your lean journey, etc. You think about what lean tells you is that if I have that saw operator and they're cutting parts, but I have a downstream effect, maybe my assembly area needs help or my paint line, etc. Well, now I take that saw operator and actually move them from one area to another area to kind of balance out that whole value chain that you have. Think about all these things. Obviously, we're introducing a lot of potential negative things into our manufacturing environment if we don't have the right material and we don't have the right machines, or we're not utilizing the right machines, or we're not utilizing the material in an appropriate manner. So we kind of break this down then and say, all right, you know what? The insight, right? If you have insight and visibility into what's happening out there on the shop floor to say that, hey, you know what? I'm on target. And on target can mean many different things. It could be what I mentioned earlier as far as that saw machine, right? Where I'm on target, I'm hitting my performance for the parts that are coming to me and I'm cutting them. Okay, but you have to think about it more as the entire finished good or your entire manufacturing facility to say, am I on target as a manufacturer? Am I producing the amount of finished goods on a day-to-day basis that I'm expecting? Am I hitting my on-time manufacturing dates, or which obviously will allow you to hit your on-time delivery dates? Is my machine OEE on target? And on target can be different for many different customers. It could be 70%, could be 80, could be 90, could be 95%. Your inventory accuracy, right? Is that visible and is it accurate? And then you know what this allows you to do, it allows you to be optimized, right? Back to again to my example earlier, where I take that manufacturer that has the saw machine just pegged producing parts and they think they're doing great, but it's not optimized as a total manufacturer, right? Where I want to take that resource or maybe even some of those parts and actually balance them out over across other areas of my facility, or maybe other parts that need to be manufactured. So the insight that you could have from an application like MV2 is to say, all right, what am I doing well, and am I on target? And most importantly, am I optimized for what I'm trying to accomplish? Right? If I'm just trying to, fill my warehouses up so that I have goods to sell because I can't keep up with the demand, great. Let's make sure that everything is pegged 100%. If I maybe say I cannot produce as many parts as my demand, well, then we have to pick and choose for which of the parts I need to manufacture are most important, right? And then you obviously can get really detailed into thinking about the changeover and what effect that has on your machines and your ultimately your completion of that job and your on-time delivery. There's a lot of different things that kind of come into play in the nitty-gritty, but we're going to kind of just focus on having insight to material and having insight into manufacturing and how those can actually benefit you as a manufacturer. So let's take the insight to material, right? And if I just look at material as alone, right? We talk about accuracy, right? In fact, I'm going to release a poll question right now just to kind of get a gauge from the audience. What is their current inventory accuracy? So I'll launch that poll. Just take a minute to read it. It's literally just asking, what's your current inventory accuracy? And if you don't know, maybe take your best guess. Say, is it 100%? Is it between 90 and 99%? Should have probably made those little, I guess, distances shorter, because a lot of people are above 90%, but maybe they're, 95 and they want to get to 98, or they're at 98 and they want to get to 99. See some answers coming in. Nobody's at 100%. I love the honesty. Thank you very much for that. Couple are at between 90 and 90, 90 and 99%. Some of you are in that category of 75 to 89. I'm glad to see nobody's below 75%. All right, that just gives us a good idea of what we have here. I'm going to actually now go back to my presentation. So accuracy kind of falls into a lot of categories, right? It's like not only just the quantity, yep, I know my inventory is accurate, but more importantly, kind of diving into a little more detail here, where is it and what is it? Where is that inventory? I was at a facility not too long ago where, their accuracy, they said they're at, 99.2% for inventory accuracy, which is a great number. However, their operators on the floor, as well as the material handlers, didn't always know where that material was. Well, we're actually working with them to actually go through a more detailed idea of where their inventory is staged, and give them some easy tools for where they can actually, when they can transfer material at the time they're actually utilizing it. So that's really important, not just to have, my cycle counts or my physical inventories tell me that I'm at 99.8% accurate, which is great. But now when it comes down to things that are happening on the floor, understanding where it is and how much you have in each location is really important to the manufacturing side to say, I can actually improve execution by understanding where it is, et cetera. The validation of inventory, making sure that I'm using the right parts, not only just the right part, which is the simple one, but maybe just validating that I'm using the correct batch lot information for that material. So that when I go back in history and do some traceability to say that I had a bad component go into one of my end items, I can understand all the other end items that also have that bad component in it. Real-time information, it's obviously, it goes without saying that real-time accuracy is important to everybody in understanding obviously how much, where, and what. And then also giving a simple way to report or automatically report your inventory events. And this is where it comes into saying that, all right, that real-time inventory accuracy can be improved by giving tools like an MES tool or MV2 tool that says, all right, I can actually report inventory simply with one or two clicks of a button, or have it automatically reported, maybe in a backflushing scenario where I'm reporting the components used at an operation because I know these components are identified that they're used at this operation. Then we go into material, right? Or excuse me, I said material, I meant machine, and say, what's inside a machine? Is my machine on target? Think about on target from the standpoint of, here's the job that is currently running. Am I on target based on my standard run rates for that person, or excuse me, for that machine, to say I'm producing as many parts as I'm expecting to be produced out here. So you could be on target from a on-time delivery standpoint, if you will, but more granular when you look at that machine and specifically the job that's running on that machine, is it on target? Then you can kind of take it more from a availability standpoint. Is that machine available, and when it is available, is it utilized? So you can kind of work on availability, making sure the machine is available when it's supposed to be available. And then the second one would be kind of utilization, making sure that that machine is utilized to its, either capacity or maximum ability. So the machine is running. But again, we don't want to get into that saw situation where we're just producing parts because we've got a machine open, right? Performance kind of goes in line with on target. And then quality also kind of goes hand in hand with performance, to say that, all right, you know what, I'm expecting 100 pieces per hour. That's great. I'm actually producing 100 pieces per hour, but maybe actually of those 100 pieces, 10 of them are bad. So my performance and efficiencies kind of are affected because of those scrap parts. Then we get into downtime management, as well as cycle time. Downtime management, there's the availability I talked about, meaning that machine is available and utilized, which is great. But you know what? If I want to try to improve or increase the availability of my machine, which means maybe it's being down for a standardized maintenance, or maybe it's down because there's a certain event that's happening on that work center for that job that's running. Or it's down because maybe there's a changeover kind of thing. I want to help manage that time. You can actually look at your downtime management to say, how can I improve and shorten up my downtime events? And then cycle time is obviously an accumulation of the time it takes for someone to manufacture an end item, which is great. It's an end-to-end kind of approach to say, how is this working? But from a individual machine time, I can see how much time it's being spent on each individual machine. And maybe I can now focus on not only the machine performance, but also the wait time or the idle time in between machines. I'm going to jump over now into kind of just bringing up the paperless MES MV2 application to kind of show you some of these in real time. There we go. So I'm bringing up the application. In fact, before I do this, I'm going to kind of kick off my second poll question, which was to ask about machine information. Oh, I already got that one. We're pretty good. Nope, actually I did not. Here we go. Here's the machine. I was looking at the wrong one. So I just kicked it off. Just the utilization of a machining. Now, do you think your machines are utilized 100%? Are they utilized obviously between 90 and 80, et cetera? And maybe take this from the standpoint of, when I say utilize based on your shifts today. So if you're a one shift manufacturer, making sure that it's 100% utilized for those 8 hours of that day or whatever your shift length is. If you're a three shift day manufacturer, then your utilization should be obviously, 24 hours out of 24 hours. Getting some good numbers here. I'd say 50% right now are in the 90 to 99% range. 25% are in that 80 to 89% range. We've got a couple unknowns. And then nobody is less than 70%, which is good. All right, we'll let that one go. And I'm going to get back over to now the application. Let's just kind of take a couple peeks at things that I was just talking about, right? Understanding, the material as well as the machine and to see whether or not things are going well or going poorly. One of the first things you can look at are, dashboards, right? Now I can look at dashboards like this and say, all right, here's a dashboard of the machines that I currently want to monitor, and I can immediately see if I have issues or if things are going well. You can see there's one green out of my work centers that I'm subscribed to, and that green one means that one's just doing fine, which is great. So nothing needs to be done. So, you may be thinking you're at 90 or 95% utilization or on target for your machines, but, in reality, are your standards set correctly, et cetera? There's a whole slew of calculations we can do. But on the other thing, you can see that I've got downtime. There's things on the screen that are red. Those machines are currently in a downtime state, and you can obviously tell how long they're down as well. And then if I want to, I can see, there are other machines here that are yellow, which may be the ones I want to kind of focus on. They're actually running jobs, and those jobs are taking longer than what's expected. So here again, you have insight to what's truly happening on your manufacturing floor, so you can make adjustments today, right now, real time. So these are kind of your real time insights. Today, there's also historical types of insight where I can look at, a period of time, the last year, the last quarter, whatever it may be, to understand if I have a recurring issue that maybe I need to deal with. Another thing you can look at from a dashboard, and I'm going to bring up a different looking view. And you can see this one actually is building, and I've got, currently two machines that are down. I'll just refresh it real quick again. Two machines that are down, and I've also have one a machine here that I have an expected quantity that I'm looking at. I expected 9 pieces to be completed so far, and 0 have been completed. Again, this is the insight that you're kind of looking for from a day-to-day or really real-time kind of scenarios. I say I can see that somebody's running a machine and they're running a job and it's producing less parts than what I'm expecting it to produce. There's different ways that you can get information. I'm sure a lot of you on the site around the session today, understand hour by hour boards. And if you have an hour by hour board kind of set up in your facility, that's fine. And maybe that's okay if you say, all right, I only expect them to report activity every hour. And that's why I haven't received any actual pieces completed for that one job that's running. And that's okay. And obviously you guys would understand that when you build these dashboards yourselves. But you can take that to the next level and say, well, maybe I want the machine to report activity rather than the operators and that hour by hour board. And I want real time up to the minute or up to the second kind of activity. Well, now that machine can actually broadcast through our machine integration application to say, all right, I'm just reporting 2 pieces being completed or another piece completed, et cetera, et cetera. And now this a dashboard would be updated immediately from that machine, no human involved at all. There's good insights here from a current job situation like this, and I'm just going to add real quickly another one, and I'll just say I'm going to monitor maybe the same work center for, we'll just call this one the total job, and I'm just going to set a couple warning thresholds here. And they add this, and you can see here that maybe if I reported at this this work center and I'm pegged, I'm doing great, my expected versus actual is awesome, but maybe that's just for the current run, which means that I'm doing good today, right now when I'm running this job. But maybe this job is something that's been running for a week long, and overall that job is in the negative, meaning it's actually going poorly. Please disregard my numbers. I'm not a manufacturer, so I just kind of let these things run for a long, long time. But this is a good example where you could say, I don't want to have a false positive that this job is running great, I'm doing great, and that's awesome. But the overall job and that commitment to my customer is actually behind schedule, and that's where that total job metric comes into play. There's other kind of metrics that you can see, where maybe I want to look at, we're talking about that machine, right? And looking at maybe downtime. And I can, look at maybe the last year or a couple of years here. And, I'm going to change mine to a bar chart and select all work centers. And this is my, downtime. So we talked about that, insight, right? Insight, we already just showed you, you have 2 machines that are down. Those machines that are down can be seen from that dashboard. More importantly, you can actually see or receive alert messages to say that this machine just went down, so you can, trigger your supervisor or trigger the supervisor and the maintenance department, both with the alert message that says this machine just went down, so they can actually go over there and look why it's been down. Maybe it's got a jam, maybe the tool broke, maybe the jig slipped, whatever it may be. There's a lot of different reasons. But the insight that you get, not only from a historical perspective, but a real-time perspective, is important for you to kind of help drive some of those metrics I was asking about. What is your machine utilization, right? What's your on-time delivery? Those kind of metrics that you were all shooting for are kind of built on how you react to the issues that are happening out on the shop floor. And the sooner you get insight into what's happening on the floor, the sooner you can actually get out there and make the changes. And again, I'm kind of spending some time on machine here, but that could be material related as well. Or maybe I'm actually waiting on material at a line side location, right? My material handler, is not doing their job, or maybe I don't have enough material handlers, or maybe the material in general is just short. So, when I put in a request for material and it's not delivered, that can obviously be another metric that you can actually look at to say, all right, material is not at the location when it's supposed to be at the location. Therefore, I'm actually slowing down my production process because of it. Back to my screen that you're looking at here for downtime, I just looked at my downtime and say, all right, I've got some areas or machines here that I need to focus on that have downtime issues. And obviously I can look at, all the details below it to say why it went down, et cetera. But maybe I want to just look at assembly 4 and say, all right, tell me why this machine has been going down. Well, the number 1 reason code is number D4 or whatever. That means in your specific instance could be different, but now I know that I have a most recurring problems for the machine going down is because of D4, and maybe that's because I was um, not having material available, or maybe it was a resource that was not available either. Not going through all of these metrics, but another key one to look at is the OEE. So you have your overall equipment effectiveness measurement, which is a great measurement, but you could get a measurement of, let's just say it's at 76%. That OEE metric is actually made up of three individual metrics, which is OEE availability, the OEE performance, as well as the OEE quality. And you could be pegged 100% on two of those. Let's say my performance is great. Whenever I'm working on this machine for the parts that I'm producing, I'm making rate, which means I'm 100% of my expected run rate, which is great. And then maybe my quality, every part that goes through here that gets produced is 100% accurate and complete, which is great. But maybe my availability is down. Maybe the machine goes down every, half hour because I have, something that's jammed in there. Maybe I've got paint or chips in there, or maybe the die slips or whatever it may be. But every hour I've got to go in there and shut the machine down for 2 minutes to actually readjust something. So if you can actually gain those 2 minutes back every hour, think about, over the course of a day, a week, a month, a quarter, etc., you would be improving or getting more availability time out of that machine. We kind of talked about cycle time as well. And again, keep in mind that these metrics that I'm looking at here obviously can be brought up like I did, but also there's a bunch of alert messages that can also be set out there. So if I'm looking at, maybe some of my work centers, and I'll just grab a work center here real quick. I can kind of monitor real time through alert and notification messages that says, all right, and this one here says it is actual run rate notification, right? So it's saying, all right, I'm going to compare the actual rate to the expected rate. And now I can say that maybe I can change this to say, if I am 80% below my expected rate, I'm going to change the color of that job to orange, and I'm going to send a notification to the supervisor. Or likewise, if you're producing really well at 120% of plan, obviously you maybe want to notify that downstream work center that material is coming, that they need to get their machine set up, etc. And then here's where you can choose the different people you want to notify, whether you want to notify the current work center, the destination work center, or the supplier work center. And you can see how these things all tie together to give you that, I guess, ultimate insight for what's happening. And that could be, from a machine kind of interface, that could be from a human interface. But again, that insight is important so that you can make some real-time decisions right now to ultimately improve all of those big metrics that most manufacturers are looking at, like my on-time delivery or my overall OEE for the year and my scrap reduction, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I've hit the top of the hour here, so this is the end of the insight, the right machine, right material, right insight kind of webinar that we have. There's a lot more to show it here, as you can tell. Please stay tuned to our website for more lunch and learns that will come up, and appreciate everyone's time. Have a great day.